Welcome back to Influencer Chat. I'm joined here as always by Brian, here to break down the second set of episodes for the Circle US Season 2. Brian, what do you think about episodes 5 through 8 here?
Very good. Big episodes for Courtney. Let's just give him a fucking hand. Yeah. Bringing it, these 4 episodes. Almost got himself eliminated at the end, but that's fine. It's all right. Because the first 2 episodes, he played it pretty much flawlessly. Yeah, I mean, in terms of getting what he wanted.
Sure. Yeah. Results from a results perspective.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, he brought it. These last episodes, they're very entertaining, and I'm interested to see where it's going to go for these last 4 episodes.
5 technically. They're doing 4 plus a solitary finale as a standalone the week after as well.
Okay.
So,
all right.
But yeah, no, definitely. If we talked about the first 4 episodes kind of being the story of like Savannah and Terralisha, these 4 episodes are definitely seem to be heavily focused on Courtney as their kind of like main character for this little batch or arc here. And we start with him where we left off in the inner circle, where we find out about the first half of his Joker power.
Yeah, so there was a lot of speculation, obviously, by us, by people online. What's it going to be? And it turns out to be the power of a burner account.
Yeah, he gets to. Yeah, he gets to make a throwaway for in order to talk shit with the new guys who are joining the community. Definitely not something you see on social media at all. So
no, never. Actually, just want to give a shout out to the Circle. Great twist. It feels very true to social media. Someone making a account to talk shit about people anonymously. So just awesome. Just keeping with the theme, and I thought it was good. I wasn't too keen on the possibility that the inner circle was going to be he's going to get to read people's DMs. I didn't love that, but yeah, this is good. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think this first part was pretty much like the best possible way you could do this twist. We can talk about the second half of his power, which I thought was a little bit much in terms of like OP for a twist.
Yeah, that's fair.
But as far as this first part goes, I think it's very well executed, a very cool idea, and like definitely something that you have to play right in order to actually get value out of. So I really like twists that kind of just give players an opportunity where if they're very good, they can make a lot out of it. But if they're not very good, they can hang themselves with it, kind of. I think that's kind of the situation we have here, where this is a very powerful ability if used correctly. So, yeah, definitely more things like this, where it's like a high skill in order to get the value out of it, and it can be misplayed.
Right. All right, so I guess what do we think off the top of our new players? Mitchell?
We'll start with Kat, I guess. I think Kat was introduced first.
Sure, it doesn't matter. It
doesn't matter. I love Kat. Yeah, Kat might be one of my favorites of the season. I wish we had seen her from the start. She has like very good energy. She like basically anytime anything happens, she is like bouncing off of the walls, like running around her apartment, like and she's like, as she said, 6'4" or whatever. So when she's bouncing around her apartment, her head's almost hitting the ceiling. So she's very fun. I think that we'll talk about it. I think she's a dark horse to even win the season. And definitely really love what we've gotten from her so far. What do you think?
I enjoyed her quite a bit. I enjoyed her sniffing out Lance as a catfish immediately because she's a super fan of NSYNC. Who knew? I mean, the producers definitely, but that was fun. I like professional athlete, like you said, really fun, personality. And I'm excited. It doesn't feel like to me that these two can't win. And you said that it feels like Kat actually can win. I don't know about Mitchell, but it's possible that they can win. Where one problem with the last season that I watched season 1 of the U.S. Circle, it felt like when you came in late, it was just such a disadvantage, and like there was almost no shot to win. But I think the absolute chaos and drama of the first 4 episodes have left it a lot more wide open than last season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there's a cutoff. I think the cutoff is like the halfway point of the season, which in this case would be episode 7. And if you come into the game, I think before the halfway point, I would say you have a chance to win. Other than just like by like sheer luck, by some like RNG situation, which is possible. And we'll see at the end of these 4 episodes, we're going to get at least one new player coming into the circle in episode 9. I think at that point it's probably too late to win outside of like really like egregious bullshit situations where you kind of accidentally win by default. But yeah, no, I agree. I think that the episode 5 out of 12, or in this case 13, I guess, is, I would say, the last episode they should be adding new players. Obviously, they disagree, but yeah, I'm fine with it. I know you've historically not been a fan of players coming in after episode 1. I think it can work if it's done well, and there have been instances in the past where it hasn't been done well. But yeah, I'm happy that we get Kat and Mitchell.
Right. So. No, me too. And like, I just think. So none of these shows are ever going to be 100% fair to everyone. Like you say, you have a 1 in 20 shot of winning Survivor. You don't. Like some people have a much better shot than others. Some people are never going to win one of these shows. But I do like that. I do like it when the game starts at the same time for everybody. I think that's at the very least you can do is like as a producer start everyone off at the same starting line, and then whatever happens, happens. So that's why I've not been the biggest fan of people being added in, but I know that The Circle is a UK reality show, and I know UK reality shows are way more about that life of adding people like well into the run of shows.
Yeah, no, definitely. This is something that you see a lot on, especially not anymore, RIP, but, you'd seen a lot on UK Big Brother where people were added like halfway through the season, through like a multi-month season, 2/3 of the way through a multi-month season on day like 50 of like a 70-day season, like completely ridiculous. Obviously like that in my mind is more egregious than entering on day 5 of like a 2-week long game. But yeah, I understand why it's not necessarily the best from a television perspective. And I definitely think like if a player who enters on day 9 out of 13 or episode 9 out of 13 goes on to win the season, that's not going to leave the best taste in the mouths of the majority of fans, probably.
So that's my soapbox, I guess, for reality TV. Like, it's one of my lines in the sand.
Yeah, no, I understand. I definitely didn't love it the first time I watched like the UK season 1, which is the first season I watched. But it's kind of grown on me a little bit, and I think that there are. I'm less opposed to it now. I do think, like there is my line in the sand is the halfway point in the season.
Yeah.
I don't like when they add players after the halfway point because usually they're either completely dead in the water or their ceiling is like accidentally backing into a win off of some bullshit, which is not like when those are the two options. Like neither of those feels good, right? Either they're irrelevant or they end up winning, which would be terrible from a narrative perspective. So I'm a little more, nuanced in my take, but that's kind of where I'm at. Anyways, a little bit of a side in between introducing our new 2 players. Now we have our second new player, Mitchell, who is somebody who we had previously seen because we watched Ed's music video that Mitchell was a co-star of.
Yes. So wow, Ben, is there precedent for this? Is this a Cody and Polly Calafiore type situation for the circle, or what is this?
I mean, I don't think that Ed was really either Polly or Cody Calafiore
All right, well,
in
just
terms of
wait
like,
for All Star season, and then we'll see.
yeah, wait till how he does in the challenge.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I guess, I mean, this is definitely, I think, the first instance of a player who was related to a past player coming on. From my, unless I'm not recollecting somebody like some rando from season 2 of UK or something like that. But yeah, I believe this is the first instance. What are your thoughts on Mitchell here, which is Ed's brother / Tammy's other son?
Yeah, I mean, I like Mitchell. Obviously, we're fans of Ed on this show. He let us use his music as an outro once, so shout out Ed. Hope you killed the challenge, if and when you're on that. But yeah, I think he's a lot of fun. I like his very laid back attitude. Even I'll get a little bit ahead of ourselves, but when they're at the height of this second batch or the second 2-episode arc of everyone getting ranked and the last 2 people are getting cut, everyone is on pins and needles except for Mitchell, who's just chowing down on some pasta. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed his flirtmance that was short-lived with Chloe. I enjoyed his backing off because of the bro code. He is the definition of a bro.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any more bro-y than him. And so yeah, I think he was good casting, just even outside of the fact that he's related to 2 former players.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like, I think that similar to how his conversation, or his second conversation with Emily turns out, where he talks about how he gets misjudged a lot because he's this bro guy. He's a, kind of a gym rat style, 8-pack Instagram model type. So
yeah, it's just really hard, I would imagine, to be him.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously that comes with its own sets of people, stereotyping him and putting him in a hot box. Right.
I've even heard people refer to beauty as a disability in its own way.
Yeah.
In the past.
Yeah. Shout out Heidi Strobel. Yeah. I'm glad we were both thinking of that same quote. Yeah.
Never forget.
Yeah, never forget.
Gotta raise awareness for the beautiful people, Ben.
Yeah. Yeah, so definitely Mitchell showing here that he can overcome the inherent the inherent disadvantage of being so unbelievably attractive.
Yeah.
And yeah, he comes out, he's like the 8-pack black and white, sepia tone model pick, probably a little bit too much. Let me pick instead the gym selfie.
Yeah, which I do think was a good pick.
I mean, it's definitely a step in the right direction.
Well, I honestly think if you come out swinging with that model pick, it is such a model pick that my first reaction is that guy's not real.
Yeah, he's a catfish for sure. Yeah.
But the other one was oh yeah, that's just someone you'd see at the gym who's really friendly, you know.
Yeah, no, it's definitely actual Instagram model versus aspiring Instagram model who kind of lives outside of LA. Yeah, so Mitchell so far has exceeded my expectations in terms of his ability to integrate himself here, and right off of the bat, or we'll talk about the Joker thing first before we talk about the circle chat, but. Yeah, his first interaction in the circle chat it goes as expected. So we see them get to snoop on everyone's profile, and then they end up in a little bit of a chat together where they get to meet their new circle bestie.
Which I think is fun. I think it's good to have them at least touch base with each other before
Mm-hmm.
going into it. Didn't last too long where it was just them because we have to get to the twist. But yeah, I think it's a good thing. And I think, like, for them, like, if I was in this position, like, first of all, I think it'd be a fucking nightmare to come into a game late. But, like, if I was in their position, I would be like, look, we don't know each other, but we don't know any of these people. We at least have, like, the common bond of being behind the eight ball in some way. So let's just, like, make a pact to give each other as much information as possible. Because otherwise, we're probably dead in the water here.
Right. No, definitely. I think this is something that the UK circle started to do, especially in this previous season, season 3, where they've started to move towards bringing new players in pairs, so they at least have kind of a built-in life vest with the other person they're coming in with. I think this is a good way to do it, because otherwise you're very much like all of the focus and light is kind of shown on you, like we kind of saw with Lance, who ends up not really, well, for probably other reasons more so than Lance coming in alone, ends up in not a great spot in terms of the game, because he doesn't really have anybody to like super clearly bond with. So yeah, I like it. I like them having a chance to chat beforehand, even outside the Joker twist. I like the new players coming in pairs as a general rule that they should probably strive towards in future seasons.
Mm-hmm. So, like, about the Joker chat, like, what are your opinions on, one, Courtney's intention to sabotage Emily, and two, on it kind of working really well?
Yeah, okay, this is interesting, right? So I've seen a lot of people online talk about how they do not like, after these episodes, they do not like Courtney at all, as a character, as a player.
Because I really liked him after these episodes.
Right. And so they're talking about how I do not like Courtney really, but I think he played this Joker thing really well and like has done super well in the game. My opinion is basically the exact opposite. Where I have enjoyed Courtney a lot in terms of what he's brought to these 4 seasons as like a character, and as kind of like this anti-villain, like kind of turning from like the underdog into like the evil mastermind villain archetype. I think that's been really fun to watch, and I think that Courtney would end up kind of being a fun winner of the season. But I think he played this Joker thing really, really badly and just got lucky that it happened to work out.
Oh, man. All right. Because I think, well, there are 2 things, in my opinion, that really sabotaged Emily. One was the makeup challenge, which, what are you going to do? If you didn't practice makeup before you got in the circle, you're not going to learn makeup in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And then this, like, maybe it wasn't Courtney's exact plan for how people were going to target Emily, but the fact that Kat and Terralisha had a one-on-one that led to Terralisha suspecting that Emily was the Joker really, really, like, undercut Jack in this game.
Yeah, I think also on top of that, we kind of see, even throughout these episodes, and especially from the first 4, that the way that Emily has approached her social game has been, I would say, lacking on the whole. And you even see this in the influencer chat between Chloe and Emily, where we see like Chloe talking about, oh, I have this, I've been flirting with Trevor, I'm close to Trevor, and oh, I have this trio thing now with Courtney and River. And you see, Emily or Jack, you see him say to himself, like, man, I didn't know that Chloe had so many relationships. And that should be a wake-up call for Emily to reach out some more and try to form some more relationships. And she kind of does this during this group of episodes with like Lance, and she definitely seems to have formed a really good bond with Trevor. But it just kind of seems like she didn't put enough work in towards the start of the season to get the pieces in place where something like this wouldn't be possible, right? And I think even, like, we'll talk about if the Joker twist was good or bad strategy from an objective perspective, like regardless of outcome. The fact that Terralicia would even be in a position to like irrationally believe that Emily would throw her under the bus like this and Chloe under the bus like this is not great. Like, if Emily is playing her social game effectively, this shouldn't be like a thing that Terralicia even considers, regardless of whether or not. Like, in my opinion, we'll talk about it. I think it was dumb for Terralicia to think this, but the fact that I think more can be said about Emily not putting the work in socially to have this allowed to work the way it did.
Right. No, I think that's definitely a good point. So I guess what are the big strokes other than like Courtney being the Joker from these first 2 episodes that lead to Terralicia's downfall? Like, is there anything you think Terralicia could have done to avoid this fate, or do you think it was kind of sealed with the blow up and just her being an easy, like, oh, I won't rank her high because there was drama surrounding her?
Yeah, I think that most of her mistakes definitely came before these 2 episodes. But as we end up seeing in the influencer chat between Courtney and River, Courtney essentially, like, strong arms the decision down to it being between Terralicia and Emily, and essentially leaves it up to River as to who he wants to push out. And we see over these 2 episodes a number of things happen with Terralicia. And one of them is that her relationship with River, which had previously been like this big sister, younger brother thing, severely has deteriorated to the point where River thinks that she's a catfish even. And you even see this as well with Chloe. Chloe, who is one of her closest allies, starts to distrust her and think that she's a catfish.
Yeah, that narrative kind of came a little bit out of nowhere to me. I don't know if you felt the same way.
I did to an extent. It was mostly 2 things that I noticed. One of them was in the Savannah, the post-Savannah message chat that we kind of glossed over a little bit here. There wasn't a lot of like super important information from this other than like nobody owning up to Savannah coming to see them. But in this chat, Terralicia says, now that Savannah is gone, the rest of you can see the real me, right? And a lot of people, seemingly for what I would say no reason, are interpreting this as like, oh, this means that she's a catfish, because that's definitely something catfish would say, oh, you want to see the real me. But that's not true. Definitely a lot of projection there, I think. And then later on in episode 5, we get our game for the episode, which is them sharing 2 new pictures. And both of Terralicia's pictures have like Snapchat, Instagram filters on it.
Right.
And this is, again, something that, in my opinion, is irrational, but it's something that people who potentially go on to future seasons should know, that historically on the circle, players who share photos of themselves that have filters on them, that sends up alarm bells for other people that, oh, this person is a catfish. Why? I don't know. I don't understand it. I think that it's kind of irrational. And historically, we've seen in the seasons where this has been the case. I don't think any of those cases has it actually been a catfish. I'm pretty sure every single time somebody has shared a photo of themselves with a filter, they've been a real person, and the catfish suspicions have been completely unfounded. So for future players, don't immediately think somebody's a catfish just because they have filtered photos, because that's irrational and historically untrue. And if you aren't a catfish, or even especially if you are, don't ever bring photos into the circle that have like very heavy Instagram or Snapchat filters on them, because whether or not it makes sense, people are going to use that as ammo against you.
Right. No, I think that makes sense what you're saying, because it's like it doesn't make sense in the sense that, like, I think the only people who'd use like filtered pictures are people who are themselves, because they're like, it doesn't matter, I'm me. So
Yep.
here's just a picture with a filter on it, but it's me.
Hmm.
So they don't even like think about that.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I think it's irrational. And so far, I believe every single instance of somebody sharing a filtered photo has been a real person who then gets catfish suspicions thrown on them.
That's so crazy. That's funny though, because that's a great point. And I think Chloe even said like, "Oh, your picture had a filter on it. I couldn't like connect to you," which is very silly to me. But okay.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But I think the storyline of a lot of these 4 episodes is like people kind of making up their own minds that a certain person is a catfish, and then just like manufacturing evidence that it's
Mm,
true, just to like reinforce their like presupposed assumption.
mm, mm. No, I think that's totally fair. What do you think of Chloe and Mitchell's flirtmance and her eventually having to choose between Trevor and Mitchell?
Yeah, Trevor who?
Yeah, so good.
I love like Chloe is like seriously growing on me. I love her. I
Yeah,
hope
she's
like
great.
I think her winning the season would be phenomenal. It would be
Mm,
hilarious. I think she's playing very well. Um, and I love how like one of her key personality traits is just her being perpetually horny on men.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, like
Yeah,
we have like the second, hot straight dude that she can flirt with come into the circle here, and she wastes exactly 0 time. It helps that one of the pictures that he shares is of him naked.
yeah.
So,
I think
um,
there's something about Chloe, and I think Joey had it a lot in the first season. Is just being themselves so openly and so
yeah,
endingly, just
unapologetically.
unapologetically. Thank you. Like
Yeah.
there's just something about that in a game where you're on high alert for who's potentially lying to you and who's being a catfish. That if someone is just like consistently and radically themselves, not in a way that like is unrelatable, um, like the first spoon of the season, but like it is there's something to be said that like that strategy can carry you a long way, and Chloe's been very consistently highly rated.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like we see these last 3 ratings, she's been first, second, first in the ratings.
Mm,
And I don't think it's necessarily going to slow down. I think that her, if anything, her biggest hurdle to win the game might just be that like she's too good and too popular, and everyone sees her as a threat in the final ratings.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I definitely think she's locked into the finals. And if people vote with their hearts and don't vote tactically and
Mm,
don't see her as a threat, she's definitely a potential person who could win this show.
yeah, no doubt. So what do you think of Courtney's second part of his power?
Um, yeah, implied this earlier. I don't love it. I think it's too much to be able to choose one of the influencers.
Mm,
It's like this is kind of an example that I gave last week of like something that would be like kind of too far
mm,
for like a power like this, where I mentioned like the power of information or like the ability to manipulate information. Like that's kind of like a good power level for something like this.
mm,
The ability to directly impact ratings or directly impact who becomes influencer or who is blocked or anything like that. I think that is probably a step over the line in terms of like
mm.
power level for this kind of a twist. What do you think?
No, I agree. I mean, I guess in my if I'm trying to like see how this came about, maybe they were like, well, the second person who goes out is gonna give this
Mm-hmm.
power to their closest ally, who will probably also be at the bottom.
Yeah,
So maybe they can save themselves and create
right.
intrigue. I don't necessarily think Courtney was as at the bottom as the producers were probably thinking someone would be,
Yeah,
considering he was the other influencer. So clearly he was decently positioned in the social hierarchy, and being close to Savannah didn't put him at such a disadvantage that he needed a OP power. But that's the only thing I can think of as to why this power went the way it did.
yeah, I agree. I think that's a good good summation. And yeah, we do see that he even before Savannah is blocked, has like started forming a very close relationship and like working social bond with people like River and Chloe, which that trio is definitely kind of solidified a lot of the power for the game right now. And yeah, as you mentioned, he ends up being the other influencer alongside River, beating out Chloe, who is pretty universally loved, as we had just mentioned. So he's definitely like, you know, he definitely did not need this extra boost. Yeah, I think that it would have been interesting to see him and Chloe be the influencers, because that's likely what it would have otherwise been. I don't think that River would have outpaced Chloe in the ratings.
I don't think so either.
And just seeing whether or not Courtney could get Chloe to vote out somebody like Emily or Teralicia, I think would have been a lot more interesting and posed, a more interesting challenge to Courtney, and it would have created more tension for like where Chloe is really going to choose her sides, because at this point her side is kind of chosen for her, right?
No, I agree. So yeah, we see the influencer chat between River and Courtney, and Courtney is very much like, I want Teralicia out. River does float Trevor, but backs off, or Lee, River, whatever, floats Trevor, but backs off for that, like, immediately. The second Courtney is like, no, he's like, okay, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I just haven't talked to Trevor enough, which I thought was kind of funny. Like, he didn't really necessarily have any gumption in his, opinions, but, or in his, I guess, argument for why Trevor should go. And it definitely felt like Courtney was entirely in control of who was getting blocked this episode.
Yeah, no, I mentioned before, I think that, like, in Courtney's mind, as long as one of Teralicia and Emily goes, I think he's content, right? So his goal basically is to make sure that everybody besides those two are off of the table for River, and then if he can let like River kind of take the lead on which of those two the block, and like make River feel like he has some sort of agency over that decision, like Courtney can live whichever way it goes.
No doubt. So yeah, I guess I want to eulogize Teralicia and her time in the game. I mean, I'll start. She was great casting. She brought the drama, and she really made this first half of the season super exciting and interesting. I mean, we praised her quite a bit last episode in terms of bringing, the intrigue to the show. So tough to see her go, but maybe there wasn't quite as much juice there, without Savannah as a counter to her to stir up drama.
Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely crashed less hard than Savannah did, but obviously that blow up caused basically both of their eliminations to follow one after the other here. Yeah, we kind of blew a little bit over this. We talked a little bit about it. What did you think of the conversation that she had with Kat? Because this is going to become relevant, because she's going to go see Chloe and kind of feed a lot of this crap to Chloe.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I think it's good that Courtney, like, he tried to pin this on Emily, because it got back to other players in a very indirect way, which, I think he was intentionally trying to be Emily, and then once Teralicia heard Kat's side of what happened, she kind of filled in the gaps in herself and kind of was like, oh, this is 100% Emily, which really undercut Emily with Chloe, and really, like, I think contributed to Emily/Jack's elimination in the back half of the episode.
Right. So my thing here is kind of twofold. I mentioned earlier, I think this move was like not super well conceived, and it just happened to really work out because like people didn't really do any due diligence to kind of investigate properly. But the idea that you can pretend to be somebody else as a Joker, like pretty openly, like he was talking as a girl, like he was making it very clear that he wanted it to come off like it was Emily, and to like give information that Emily wouldn't ever give. All it takes is for Kat or Mitchell to have a private chat with Emily, ask her, "Hey, what do you think about, Terralisha and Chloe?" And and she'll say like, "Oh, I love Terralisha and Chloe, like they're my closest friends in the game." And then Kat and or Mitchell will immediately know that somebody is just trying to set Emily up, and the entire plan has failed. Like it's extremely easy to cross-reference. And also on top of that, from Terralisha's perspective, her logic that she then describes to Chloe, which is like, "Oh, nobody could have this information that was only within Girl Gang, right? Except for Emily." But she's completely forgetting the key piece of knowledge, which is that Savannah went to go talk to somebody, and nobody has fessed up to being that person. And Savannah easily could have given all of this useful information to that person, who then could use this to frame Emily. That's not something that Terralisha even once considered.
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe it's just because it was so close to the elimination, maybe, and she got a little frazzled and a little bit like, what the hell happened here? Like, how did this spiral out for me? That's the only thing I can kind of think, because, yeah, I mean, there's a big part of the circle is that people getting to share information after they're eliminated. Like, it's not a super common thing in a lot of the reality shows we look at. Like, once you're done, it's like, get out now. But that is a thing that you have to take into consideration and also navigate as a player in this game.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no, my view of I compared in my mind to like, because I paused it as it was happening, and I was just like completely awestruck at what was happening because it didn't make any sense to me. Yeah. But I compared it to like a Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner style trap, where it's like there's no way this should work, and like if you have any sort of like logical like way of thinking through it, like it's a very obvious trap that you can obviously get around, but it still like worked. So like it's hard to really evaluate it from any kind of perspective. Because like if you set a very obvious trap and then somebody like walks right into it, like who is that on? Is that on you and you did a great job setting the trap, or is that more on the person who saw a trap with a big sign that says, "Hey, this is a trap," and they're like, "Oh, what is this?" and they walk right into it.
Yeah, sometimes it's a trap, sometimes it's just a fucking stick,
Yeah.
And who gets I don't see a lot of people giving Ozzy necessarily a ton of credit for pulling one over on Jason in that one. So I guess that's a great point to what you're saying. Let's not be results oriented. Let's look at the bigger picture. So
right, that's what I'm saying.
That's good. All right, so Terralisha, she's gone. Unfortunate. We don't have anyone added into the circle to replace her this round, which is good. We do have a challenge, a game. And you said in our last episode, these games can only hurt you. And boy, did this hurt Emily/Jack. Holy.
Yeah, that's definitely the headline. There are other players, though, that this for sure harmed. Lance was harmed by this. Trevor, even to an extent, by doing so well, was kind of like reverse harmed by this, insofar as like everyone expects like girly girls to do well at this sort of thing, but everyone wouldn't expect like a 32-year-old dude who like is just like playing like a straight dude to like do very well at like a crafts challenge.
You know what it was for me? It was the blush on the cheeks. The blush gave it away. If she had not included that detail, I think people would have been more open. But I think like the blush and like that attention to detail, reads more feminine. I don't know if you agree.
I agree. I mean, I think that he is definitely going. Well, I mean, I think him winning is bad. But I think that he definitely kind of gets off a little bit in terms of suspicion, just because so much of the attention is put on Lance and then, of course, Emily mostly. But yeah, like I mentioned this in the first podcast. Like, it doesn't seem like Jack really did his due diligence in terms of preparation to play as a woman at all.
At the very least, you gotta know makeup brands. At the
Yeah.
very least, let alone
No.
know
Yeah.
how to do makeup.
Yeah. No. For future players going on, if you're going to play as a Catfish, you need to have a binder that's like at least like 100 pages long, right? Like, you need to write a character that has depth. You need to have every detail that could feasibly be asked of you. If you're going to be catfishing, you should catfish as a person that you know. You're using their pictures. So he can go to Emily, or the girl who is the pictures of Emily, because I don't think her name is actually Emily, but and just say, these are all of the pictures I want to use. Tell me everything about these pictures. Where were you? What clothes are you wearing? What are the brands? What makeup are you using? Tell me your makeup, like your day-to-day makeup routine. Like, there's so many details that you can get ahead of time. It's not that hard to get. Like, especially if you're using the pictures of somebody you know. Like, this is like stuff that you can prepare ahead of time. It's well known in the circle that there are arts and crafts challenges. There's like artistry challenges, and definitely women are set to a higher standard in terms of these arts and crafts challenges because of, like, gender stereotypes. And so when a man is doing an arts and crafts challenge as a female character, and they do poorly at an arts and crafts challenge, whether it be painting or makeup or like this pancake thing as well, like, that raises red flags.
Yep.
Whether it's fair or not, that raises red flags. And also in the reverse, if a woman is playing as a straight man and they do like particularly well, and they don't come off as somebody who's artistically inclined, that also raises red flags. Or if they have like a feminine style, as you mentioned. So these are things that you kind of have to work out before you go on the show, if you're planning on especially catfishing across gender lines, but catfishing in general.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that they let people bring in, because
Yeah.
Trevor had a notebook about New York
Oh,
Giants players, like, which was great, which was so smart to have,
Yeah, and we've seen past, like, James, aka Sammy, on UK season 2 had an entire binder. He played as a single mother, and he had like an entire like character write-up of like the toddler son, and like he had like all of this information about like mothering stuff and about the like fake occupation he had. We saw James, aka Gemma, on season 3 playing as a nurse, had like an entire binder of medical information and like books and stuff. Like, this is stuff that you can prepare, and
the circle wants you to bring it in and play.
Yes, they allow you to bring in information, binders, materials, books, anything that you need in order to pull off your catfish character effectively. And like, whether you can actually I'll cut them a little bit of slack in terms of like actually doing the makeup on the mannequin, right? Like, even if you prepare, it's still like a skill that needs to be trained. So like, you're not going to be able to do it perfectly, even if you practiced it, if it's not something you do on a regular basis. Obviously, like what he did, like using eyeshadow as below the eyes like that, like it was like put on like eye black for like a football player. It was not great.
So bad.
Not knowing how foundation works, not great.
Literally every other player used the liquid foundation correctly. That was the worst part.
Yeah, just like not knowing how to layer liquid and powder foundation. Just like these are basic things you can look up. You have the resource of the girl that you're going to be catfishing as that you can talk to theoretically. Presumably other girls in Jack's life you can use, or in the life of whoever is going to go in future seasons. I don't want to be too hard on him, but like it definitely is a bad look when in the first episode he basically is like, I did my preparation by watching, P.S. I Love You, and like that's all he did to like prepare to play as a girl. It kind of comes off as like a little cocky, and like but yeah, it sucks. But yeah, more egregious to me was just not being able to name makeup brands.
Yeah.
Like this is like very.
At least like you'd think through osmosis of watching television growing up, you
Yeah.
would be able to name 5, right? You know.
Say like L'Oreal, Yves Saint Laurent. You could say like Sephora has their own brand
Yeah.
they
Did he say
sell in their
Maybelline?
store. Huh?
Did he say Maybelline?
He said
That,
Maybelline, yeah, which is like the makeup brand.
one?
That's like that's the makeup. That's the one makeup brand you expect like every normal like straight guy to be able to name off the top of their head. So like not a great one to be the only one he really got right.
Bold choice to make some up though, like that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just it's very easy. It's not. I wouldn't say it's easy, right? Playing a character, especially across gender lines, is not easy. But in order to like get the basic level of preparation, it is something that is quite easily doable for future players. And you know, we kind of see this a lot with Catfish players, where they get caught out just because they haven't put in their due diligence. So I don't think this is what killed Emily's game, by the way. At least not like on its own. I think Emily was like kind of sinking before this, but this was definitely a really bad nail in the coffin situation.
It was, yeah, because it came at a really bad time too, because there was a string of players who were themselves getting out, where everyone was like, "We need to find the Catfish now! Like, we need to get him out." Which I don't. Who cares? Who cares if someone's catfishing? It doesn't matter. But for some reason, people get into their heads that like you have to get rid of catfishes. Even people who are catfishing, apparently, they're like, I need to hunt catfish. So, like, the fact that it was on top of all of that was just, like, so unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, I actually thought River's defensive catfish hunting was probably the one instance of catfish hunting I've seen that is, like, defensible. I actually like this kind of thought process of, like, he is saying, you know, all of these OG players are going out. You presume 3 to 4 probably of the OG 8 are catfish, just statistically. So if 3 of them are gone and they're not catfish, if you're River, you're like, oh shit, if another OG player goes and they're not a catfish, everyone's going to start looking at me. Like like nobody really thinks that River's a catfish right now. And so if say like, you know, obviously like Chloe and Courtney are the 2 that are left that aren't. So like if one of them had gone instead, like there's going to be a lot of players who are like suddenly considering, oh shit, maybe River actually is a catfish. So I understand, at least from his perspective, why he would prioritize getting that out just to take some of the heat off of himself. Right. But in general, I think that like caring about whether or not somebody is a catfish is not, it's just silly.
You're focusing your efforts in the wrong place, in my opinion.
But it's way more important for, you know, somebody like Chloe, who ends up kind of helping to take down Terralicia a little bit, or like being okay with her being taken down, and also like being a contributing factor to Emily and getting blocked here because she's suspicious of her. It's way more important that somebody is your friend rather than whether or not they're a catfish.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that you have some semblance of trust with people. And maybe it's like, oh, I can't trust them because they're a catfish, but it's like, also, you're going into the game that you know people are gonna catfish. So if like, I even suspected someone was a catfish, but they were like, everything that they've said can be like traced back to being honest with me. I don't care. I'm rolling with the people who are going to protect me in the influencer chats, not the, not being who they say they are. That's besides the point. So, I guess, obviously that wasn't the only thing that sunk Lance and Emily here. One of the things I was surprised was Emily / Jack, a huge Jacksonville Jaguars fan. That didn't bode well for me. Wearing all those Jaguars jersey, it's just synonymous with losing. I mean, I wouldn't go on the circle with my Dolphins jerseys either. So, I think that's bad juju for teams that are consistently not good. But
how dare you? No, I showed him. I think it was like a Rashawn Mathis jersey or something like that. And I was like, wait, what? I didn't really process before what jerseys he was wearing until I saw that, and I was like, wait, is he a Jaguars fan? Because he's from I think he's from Northeast somewhere originally, and then he goes to school in Chicago.
Right.
So it's just interesting. It's kind of an interesting team, but I guess the same thing with you, right? You're from Massachusetts, and you're a
Dolphins fan. Yeah,
just like you're both masochistic, I guess.
Yep, exactly, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I just had to take that little shot because I was so surprised. One, I was surprised that they let people wear like branded clothes like that on the circle, But two, it's just kind of funny to have someone in a Jaguars jersey in 2021 when they were the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
Hey, things are looking bright though. Trevor Lawrence, he's coming. Like, if someone's in a Trevor Lawrence jersey, I would get that. I would understand. So I guess that's also carte blanche for me to wear my 2-in jersey someday. Oh man, we're getting so off track. I'm sorry. We're recording 2 podcasts back to back. It's 11 o'clock at night on a Friday.
Yeah,
so
no, for sure. Yeah, and it's also the second podcast in a row we've had like an aside about the NFL. Yeah.
The Wicked Good Sports is just bleeding into my brain. Other than that, I think it was good cross promotion to have one of the Queer Eye guys in this. I think Netflix is making a really great show in the circle, but also doing really great cross promotion with Chloe and Jonathan. Was that?
Yes, Jonathan Van Ness. Yes.
Yeah. I thought Jonathan was very funny and very fun. And the few clips I've seen where Jenny watches Queer Eye, Jonathan's been really funny and fun on that. So, and Jonathan was in those commercials during football season for Grubhub.
Bring it
all back around. Yeah. Fucking nailed it. Much like Jonathan in those commercials, I stuck the landing.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was definitely like a fun challenge. It is. As far as like arts and craft challenges go, like they did do kind of 2 back-to-back here with the pancake art one followed by this, and neither of them really kind of served like a social purpose. Like both of them were kind of the like try to get Catfish to trip up vein, as opposed to like the portrait mode challenge or game, which is like them drawing mean pictures of each other on the canvas. Which is both fun because you get to watch people, their artistic skills, but also because, people will be throwing shots anonymously or whatever. So like that's definitely, in my opinion, that's the cream of the crop in terms of arts and crafts games that they play. But yeah, it was fun to see them interact with Jonathan and him, like compliment them and then like roast Lance and Emily, which was a little bit of a premonition for the next episode.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, we have anything else you want to talk about before we get into the second blocking sequence here? You want to talk about Emily and Mitchell flirting because Mitchell kind of. Is throwing himself all around here.
Yeah, once Mitchell, respected the bro code with Trevor and backed off, which is just so funny. He's such a bro. Oh my god. Yeah. He was like, "Oh, I guess I'll flirt with Emily," which I thought went okay. Not like great, but like good enough. What do you think?
No, I agree. I think this is like one of the situations where Emily did well. In terms of like playing a girl here, the flirting was like adequate. Like it was good enough. And even after the mannequin challenge, where they have their second conversation, and Mitchell is like trying to feel her out of like I might be flirting with a dude here. This is very odd for me. She was able to get him at least to a position where he was like. Kind of 50-50. Like, he went from, like, she's probably a dude and a catfish to, like, maybe she's actually real because this conversation seems really good. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Not that it will last. As we
No,
said.
no, for sure.
So, what do you think of this twist? This was something they did last season, if I recall correctly. I don't know if it was a double boot, but yeah, the not having influencers this round. What do you think of
Yeah,
that?
the instant blocking situation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a huge fan of it. We did see this in we saw like a variation of this in the last season of the UK, where the bottom two were not instant blocked, but they were the only two up for to be blocked,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest of the players basically had to nominate a super influencer among the rest of them to decide who between the two of them to block. I think that is probably a better way to do kind of an instant blocking situation where you kind of have a chance to fight for yourself, as opposed to like a lot of times people will rate very strategically, and it actually can be strategically beneficial to be lower in the ratings if you're trying to like negate your threat level a little bit. And so not knowing ahead of time that there is going to be this instant blocking going on, it does kind of feel like a little bit random. I think especially for Lance, because we see in the influencer chat between Courtney and River that both of them kind of considered Lance to be a little bit of a goat, and it was their plan to kind of drag him along to the finals because they didn't expect him to rate well in the finals because nobody wants Lance Bass to win the money.
Right.
So I think that, from that perspective, Lance kind of lost out on probably his only out to win the game, which was like getting dragged to the finals as a GOAT and then accidentally backing into a win because of tactical rating, off of like kind of a really random, unfortunate twist here. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think this whole like 2-episode arc was just like setting up Emily to be the eighth person in it, and I was not sure who was going to be that seventh person. Like it could have been, for me, anyone from like the 4 to 7 range could have been in any order. So I was a little surprised it was Lance, and I think it just comes down to people like. I don't think people necessarily rated Lance low, but I don't think anybody rated Lance like super high, which was the bigger problem.
Yeah, you even see Emily, who had just had like a decent conversation with Lance where they bonded over like space nerd shit, which I guess is the only like common ground they could probably have found.
Right.
But it's very surface level. Like even her, even Emily was saying that she wanted the two people to be blocked in this double blocking to be Kat and Lance, and she I think rated Lance second to last. So even the people that Lance is theoretically bonding well with are not rating him high. So yeah, it's kind of to be expected.
No, for sure. So I'm happy Courtney didn't go because I think Courtney's bringing it hard on the show. So I didn't want to see him leave at all. Chloe is playing tremendously. She's number 1 again. She's always up there. So high. River, solidly rated as well. Very also surprised. I don't know if surprised the right word, but impressed that Kat was able to like climb the rankings so quickly.
Yeah, she ends up in second even. And so if this was a normal round, she would have been an influencer alongside Chloe, which I think would have been very interesting to see how that would have played out. But yeah, definitely very impressive to go from like almost always new players rank in the bottom like 2 or 3 after like their first round they're eligible to be rated. And we see even Mitchell ends up at 5 out of 8 slot, I believe. And so yeah, like both of the new players are definitely performing above replacement level for players coming into the circle this late. And Kat especially is in definitely one of the better positions to win, I think.
No, I agree. I totally agree. So we'll see. I mean, on top of that, I guess let's just round it out here. What do you think of this twist? They have to combine
Mm-hmm.
to play a new player. Did we get a name officially?
We didn't in the episode proper. There was a preview for the next round where we saw them building and introducing the profile, and the name is John. And I don't know if you want me to spoil the profile a little bit, but
No, yeah, go for it. I mean,
yeah. So he is a full-time psychic and a part-time mall Santa. And I think they're also playing him as gay, so he'll be the fourth gay player of the season, which is, probably strategic insofar as that there are two other gay contestants still in the show, so it makes sense. And so I think that's pretty much the majority of what we got from that profile. Definitely an interesting character profile to make. The history of psychics on the Circle, not the best. And on reality TV in general, not the best, but we'll see.
Okay, how dare you? Caitlin Herman is one of the greatest BB players of all time.
Is Caitlin Herman a psychic? I don't think she's a psychic, really, right?
She had psychic vibes.
Yeah.
Remember, she'd be like, I'm getting like a vision and...
premonition, yeah.
Yeah, premonition and... oh, God, what was his name?
Brett. Yeah.
Made fun of it.
Yeah. No, I was thinking more of Mama K from BB Can 7. Like And then also there was a guy on the Circle UK season 2, I believe, who did not last very long. Who came in late and was a psychic, and
pretty much wonder why he even showed up if he knew he was going to be out so early.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he demonstrated on the show that he did not really know what was going on at all. Very surprising from somebody that connected into that tapped into the spirit realm or whatever.
It must have been what they made the building out of, blocking the psychic.
Yeah, it was like unobtainium or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's very sad, very unfair to put that on the psychic players.
Yeah.
Ben and I, big believers over here.
I mean, I'm just saying, I'm looking at the data, right? I'm open to it, but the data on reality shows is that psychics have not been great. Obviously, in this case, he's not even a real person, so it's like doubly obviously, like Lisa and Jack are not going to be real psychics, even if John would have been one. Mm-hmm. So.
Oh man,
I'm interested to see how this goes. Though this is something that the UK series has done twice now. Once in series 1 and once in series 3, and it's been okay. Once in series 2 was also named Jack, I think, and I can't remember her name either. But yeah, no, it's been interesting. To have like two blocked players and a double blocking both come back and share a profile. I think this late in the game, the only real out for John is to kind of make the finals by default because other people are targeted as threats ahead of him, and then end up winning kind of again by default by backing into a win by tactical rating. That's like the only out for these late players, as I mentioned before.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the late players, but I guess if there has to be a new player coming in, I don't mind it so much that it's people that we already know.
Yeah, right. I agree. I hope that John is the only player coming in episode 9, and it's not John plus, on addition, somebody else, because that's what they did in UK Season 3, which is the last 2 players coming in. One of them was 2 players who had just been double blocked, and the other one was a brand new player who literally had no fucking shot at all. Because they're coming in with like 5 days left with no information. Whereas at the very least, Lisa and Jack have information they can use.
Right. All right. Is there anything else we didn't touch on that you really want to touch on?
No, I'm curious. At this point, we're more than halfway through the season. We have 5 episodes left. Do you have a call here? Because we have before this kind of point in the season, it's very difficult to legitimately make kind of a call for the end game because there are new players that are always going to be entering in. But at this point, we've pretty much seen all of the players that can win the game. So who do you have as your pick to win the season at this point?
Oh, gosh. So I want to say Chloe because she's been rated so highly all the time, but I don't think people will immediately reward her for, it. I think they're going to vote tactically, but I think Trevor is a dark horse. Like, always up there, never quite an influencer, so never getting blood on his hands.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put in my winner pick as Trevor.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I am going to base my decision on, I think the Kardashian trio are all probably going to make the finals at this point. I think the most likely person to go out next is Mitchell, unfortunately. And so I think the finals is probably going to be the Kardashian trio, Kat, and Trevor. And with that finals, I think my pick for the most likely winner is actually River, which I think would,
all right. That'd be so interesting.
Yeah, I think that would be a very interesting outcome.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be so. I mean, I like River / Lee a lot. So
yeah,
he's a fun, quirky guy.
Yeah. So that's my number one right now.
Stan. All right, I like that.
Yeah.
So let's lock those in and see what happens.
We'll see what happens. We did this, I think, in season 1, and I think we were both wrong.
Oh yeah. No,
I think you said Shuby and I said Sammy.
Yep.
Or no, you said Rebecca maybe.
Maybe we'll have to watch this tape.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it back. I don't think neither of us said Joey. I don't think.
No, I definitely didn't, and I do remember you picking Sam for sure.
Yeah, I picked Sammy. But yeah, so maybe one of us will be right at this point. But we'll see. We'll find out in 2 weeks.
Chad picked right for the Have Not room, but it'd be nice to continue to show that we're somewhat knowledgeable and know what we're talking about a little bit. And then Denise and Natalie came in second. Denise came in 6/5 as winners at war. So I think we have an okay, pulse or finger on the pulse.
Yeah.
If you will, of these. But yeah, Ben, where can they find you online?
You can find me online at Ben Share on social media. I don't do too much tweeting about the Circle. I mentioned this last week just because it's kind of a difficult show to tweet about without being spoilery. But I might throw, and maybe after the finale, I'll probably do kind of some wrap-up tweet thoughts just because it'll be harder to spoil because it's one episode as opposed to 4. So yeah, probably the day after the finale, you'll check out my thoughts ahead of our finale podcast.
Alright, so you can follow me on I tried to stream Outriders and it did not appreciate that at all. So coming up with a different solution. Until then, check out everything. I think that's it. So much stuff to plug. Always be plugging. So, other than that, thank you so much for listening. We've been having a lot of fun talking about the Circle at great length, and we hope that you've been enjoying it. And we will see you in the next one.